access and affordability in the United States, which is the most important public health challenge we have today. Let me talk a little bit about the stakes and the impact of what we're doing. This here, a sugary drink with 50 grams of added sugar, is the top item that government procurement dollars go to for food stamps. This item here is sold in every pediatric ward in America that relies on government money for their existence. We are delivering and paying for weapons of mass destruction for children's metabolic health with government dollars, and then paying the price with 3 times higher healthcare costs than any other country in the developed world. This is the most popular snack that is government approved as a healthy snack for school lunches. This is recommended and delivered in every school in America with the government seal of approval as a healthy snack. And this is something that millions of dollars go to every day of government money, and is the most popular federally funded school breakfast for 5-year-olds in America. Every day, there are millions of federally funded donuts being served to children in school. These products, which the government before the Trump administration has both recommended, and yes, recommended, until these dietary guidelines, these products fell within recommendations from previous government guidance. The government has recommended these items, and they have incentivized them, and it has led to an explosion of insulin resistance, inflammation, oxidative stress among our children. This is not an attack on an industry. This is a vital. We are at the Department of Health and Human Services. Frankly, the people around this building, these pictures, they have overseen devastating impacts of chronic disease, and they've been asleep at the wheel with the evolution of our standard American diet. This is not an attack on an industry. We got here through many directions, but it is the truth. We must get to whole food. I want to talk about what lobbyists say to us, which is that we can't afford to do this. We can't afford a better diet for our schools. The United States spends more on school lunches than any other country in the developed world. We spend $4.60 per school lunch. The Japan spends $3. We have a budget of $19 a day for our military members. My suggestion is to think about eggs, to think about yogurt, to think about baked food and baked chicken instead of fried food. We can do this, and for the first time, this government has political will to do it. That's because of one man. For the first time in American history, we have a president who is issuing an order across the government to stand up for American farmers, to get government procurement dollars to American farmers, and to stand up for American children. That president is President Trump. Can we all hear a round of applause for President Trump, who has issued this order to put children's health at the top of the national priority? We'll see today what's happening is historic. We have the CEO of Tyson Foods here, who has led the industry in removing the petroleum-based dyes, the artificial chemicals. That we're making incremental improvement. We're talking daily to the food industry. Everyone knows we need to improve on this issue. The food industry is stepping up. They're making commitments. These are happening every day. We have unlikely allies. We're standing here with the president of the American Medical Association. I commend the American Medical Association. It doesn't matter if we disagree on other issues. We've got to come together to take President Trump's directive to reverse the chronic disease crisis. And we are marshaling and working constructively with allies throughout the government and throughout the medical sector. If you are a medical organization that cannot put Trump derangement syndrome above children's health and the necessity of improving the standard American diet, we don't want anything to do with you. But if you are somebody that is willing to work with this administration, even if there are disagreements on other issues, to improve this issue, this administration has an open hand, and I thank all the groups that have partnered with us on this. In the past year, we have marshaled these outside commitments. We have worked with governors on SNAP reform to get soda off of SNAP. We are working, it's an incremental process, but we are going to deliver improvements in school lunches, military food. And we have dramatic public health messaging that I think is very important, an important first step. It's very important to tell the truth. This would not be possible without the historic partnership between what I believe, and I know many here believe, people that will go down in the history books as some of the most important public health leaders in American history, and that is Secretary Kennedy and Secretary Rollins at the USDA. They have had an unbelievable partnership. They have been brave. They have stood up for farmers and stood up for kids. I want to introduce one of the crucial pieces of this effort. He's founded a small company before coming to government called Airbnb, and he is driving the design of the website, the design of the food pyramid, and many other efforts to evangelize this real food message to Americans. Joe Gebbia.
Good morning. Imagine a child in school today staring at the same outdated food pyramid that hung in my second grade classroom decades ago, one that quietly pushed processed foods to the forefront while whole, nourishing ingredients got pushed aside. That pyramid didn't just guide meals, it shaped a generation's health crisis. Chronic disease rates skyrocketed and we accepted it as normal. But today we say enough. At the National Design Studio, we didn't just redesign a graphic or build a website. We helped reclaim something fundamental: America's relationship with real food. Under President Trump's leadership, and in profound partnership with Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Rollins, and our incredible federal partners, we brought the new food pyramid to life. We flipped the script, literally, putting high-quality protein, dairy, healthy fats, vibrant vegetables, and fruits where they belong, front and center. Whole grains form a solid base, and highly processed junk, it's finally called out for what it is. We launched realfood.gov, not as another clunky government site, but as a modern minimalist experience. Clean lines, playful illustrations, intuitive flow, inspired by the best consumer brands. Because if we're asking families to choose real food every day, the guidance should feel welcoming, trustworthy, and beautiful, not bureaucratic. This isn't just design, it's a reset for the nation. We're making healthy choices clear, more accessible, and even joyful. We're empowering parents, supporting American farmers, and turning the tide on a health emergency, one plate, one click, one inspired decision at a time. National Design Studio exists to prove that great design can change lives and strengthen our country. Together, we're making America healthier, one real meal at a time. So thank you, and let's keep eating real food. Now, the man I get to introduce next is a true icon of modern branding and design, a visionary who's helped shape some of the most recognizable brands in the world. For over 4 decades, he's been at the forefront of transforming products, companies, and entire industries. And he doesn't just build brands, he redefines them. He blends art and architecture and culture in some of the most innovative ways that have left an indelible mark on the visual and cultural landscape of our country. Please join me in a warm welcome for Peter Arnell.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be here today. Before I say anything else, I would like to begin with gratitude. Thank to Senator Kennedy for his courage and conviction to stand behind this mission. Thanks to Callie Means and Joe Gebbia for their leadership and trust. And thanks to Tony Lyon, who leads the Maha Center, for believing this could actually be an important and impactful message. And special thanks to the real vision behind what you saw in the film, the great director Brett Ratner, for bringing cinematic strength and clarity, honesty to this moment. Most importantly, I'd like to thank Mike Tyson and his wife Kiki and their son Miguel, who for 1 week worked tirelessly with the entire organization Their loyalty, vulnerability, and willingness to speak from their heart was extraordinary. To be clear, we didn't make a commercial for the Super Bowl. We started a movement. This year, we redirected that stage after 60 years. Instead of manipulation, we delivered honesty. Instead of spectacle, we delivered truth. And the truth is simple. Real food changes lives for the better. I know that personally. Most of you don't know you're looking at someone who was 407 pounds 20 years ago. I struggled with my obesity my entire life, and I lost 250 pounds. Not through a trick or a pill, but by eating real food and changing my behavior. I wrote a book called Shift about that transformation and about what happens when you decide your future matters more than bad habits. So when this opportunity came, it was very personal. Mike Tyson was the perfect ambassador and voice for the Maha mission. One of the most powerful fighters in the history stood up and said, "This is the greatest fight of my life." His words were unpolished, honest, and real, and we didn't stop at the Super Bowl. We launched that night a nationwide outdoor campaign, taxi tops running 24/7 across every major market in this country, which will continue permanently. We've gotten an extraordinary partnership with the Firefly Group, and they are helping us to make sure that this message hits the streets every day, and this campaign it resonates and communicates what it needs to do for the public. We've basically turned our cities into moving billboards for change. This signals something bigger, a new era of transparency in food advertising. A warning to the industry. Change is upon us, and we are not going backwards. This isn't a campaign, it's a coordinated behavioral reset. We created a place for families, children, producers, brands, educators to join, not just watch. Today, I'll leave you with this simple thought. Mike Tyson has been famous for biting, but this time he chose to bite into real food. And now we say, bite like Mike. It means something better. It means a better bite for a better life. Thank you so much. I have the privilege of introducing to everyone the genius director, Brett Ratner.
It's going to be hard to follow that. Peter is really one of the most incredible, brilliant creatives I've ever worked with in my life. Sorry, I'm out of breath because I'm overweight and obese myself. I'm going to improvise this. I will tell you one thing. This experience of making this spot for Maha was one of the great experiences of my life. I had a fantastic time making the Melania documentary, but this was the topper. Because I have known Mike Tyson since I was 16 years old. He was my best friend. He was 18 when I was 16. That's definitely aging me, but I will tell you that I was in better shape than him when I met him. Mike continued to become a professional athlete, as you know, and I just kept eating and getting fatter and fatter and out of shape. And in the last year, we went on vacation together, and he's an inspiration. He's changed his life with food and exercise. And I said to Mike, Mike, I'm just going to eat what you eat. And we were together on vacation for about a month, and I ate everything he ate. I was gaining weight, and he was losing weight. I said, Mike, how is this happening? He said, because I'm up at 4 a.m. on the treadmill for 3 hours every morning, and you're not. You're sleeping in late. But honestly, I want to thank Maha. I want to thank Tony Lyons and everybody involved in this. This is one of the great experiences of my life. getting to collaborate with a friend. We've been friends for 40 years, and we never worked together. So it was incredibly meaningful. And I want to say right now, thank you. Thank you. The one person back there, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm a big admirer of Secretary Kennedy and, of course, President Trump. And I'm going to make a promise to everybody in this room. Next time you see me, from this moment on, I'm only eating real food, and I will be in better shape next time you see me, okay? I promise. I just wrote 2 sentences that I just want to read to everybody, which is totally from my heart. I believe I have made the definitive statement on the subject of diet and obesity with this commercial. There is nothing left to say. People will heed to it and live or ignore it and die. God bless everyone. I'm sorry, I'm very honored to introduce to you the president of the American Medical Association, the AMA, Mr. Bobby Mukkamala. And I definitely got that right. Mukkamala. Come on up, Mr. Bobby Mukkamala.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here to talk about something that personally I'm very passionate about. Physicians know that a well-balanced nutrition is one of the most powerful tools that we have to improve the health and lower the cost of maintaining health in our country. As a country, we are great at treating things like heart attacks, like strokes, and brain tumors. But we need to do better at preventing disease. The newly issued Dietary Guidelines for Americans reinforces what science and clinical experience have long shown. Choosing protein-rich whole foods while limiting heavily processed foods that are high in sodium and added sugar can help slow or reverse our nation's growing chronic disease burden, particularly cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity. These guidelines are more than recommendations. They are a conversation starter and a call to action for physicians, for our patients, our health system, and our country, to fully embrace the idea that food is medicine. The AMA is making commitments to advance this work. First, we will lead discussions on how to make it easier for physicians to talk to our patients about the role of food in preventing and even treating chronic disease. When physicians integrate sound nutritional guidance into care, we see better outcomes. Patients gain tools not just to treat illness, but to prevent it. We also stand to work with Congress to incentivize nutrient-dense foods, to expand food labeling efforts, to define ultra-processed foods, and increase investment in nutrition research. As someone who cares for patients in my hometown of Flint, Michigan, this issue is deeply personal. My conversations with my own patients are often much about food, physical activity, sleep, and stress, as they are about whatever ailment happens to bring them into my office on that day in the first place. We need to make sure that our system supports our desire to have these conversations with our patients. Patients trust their doctor. And our goal as physicians is not just to treat the acute condition in front of us, but to help patients understand and address the root cause. I recently completed a certification in lifestyle medicine, which emphasizes the roles that food and other factors play in preventing and treating disease. That training has already reshaped my conversations with my own patients and their families, and I heartily recommend that to my physician colleagues. That type of training, coupled with this level of focus on nutrition, can create meaningful change, potentially massive change, in the health of our country. We need to get more for what we spend on health care, and this is a wonderful way to get there. The path forward is clear. We must champion healthy eating, not just as a suggestion, but as a national priority. We must work together to build a future where sound nutrition is recognized for what it is, a cornerstone of longer lives, better health, and stronger communities. Thank you so much for involving us in this effort. And now that we've been talking about great food, I got my stomach growling right before lunch. I'm excited to introduce an amazing, healthy food-focused person, Chef Andrew Gruel. Thank you so much.
All right. Normally doing a cooking demonstration with a crowd like this, but I didn't have enough raincoats for everybody in the front row, so I'll just walk you through the food. You know, I bring a chef's perspective to this, and I can tell you that absolutely real food is common sense. It's intuitive. It's in our DNA. It's been in our DNA for hundreds, thousands of years. You see, intuitively, people know how to eat. But over the past 20, 30, 40, even 50 years, we've been confused. There's been way too much noise out there. We've lost our relationship with food. Now, I say that real food is wholesome food, it's nutritious food, it's also sustainable food. But most importantly, one thing I've been leaning on is that real food is also inexpensive food. And I get a lot of pushback on that, but just close your eyes for a second and imagine this, right? You wake up in the morning, 2 farm fresh eggs, runny yolks, crispy toast, whole butter slathered on that crispy toast, some fresh fruit for lunch, a slow roasted chicken thigh with maybe a quinoa and vegetable salad, extra virgin olive oil vinaigrette, some good high quality vinegar. Then for an afternoon snack, an American tart apple with sweet and salty nut butter. And for dinner, you've had braising all day long, an inexpensive cut of meat that you bought perhaps on Sunday, maybe a chuck roast, espresso rub, coffee rub, sweet and smoky with caramelized onions and some, I don't know, making this up as I go, maybe some roasted baby Dutch yellow potatoes. And heck, for dinner, let's even throw dessert in there for under $15 a day. How about some frozen bananas in a blender with whole milk, cocoa powder, peanut butter? You got yourself some banana peanut butter, homemade ice cream, or just relegate yourself to that whole fat, high protein ice cream. You can eat all of that for less than $15 a day. In some parts of America, maybe in California, it's $315 a day. But nonetheless, it's $15 to $20 a day. And the reason why people say, no way, I can't have that, is because they don't understand food. We've lost our relationship with food. We've been living out of a processed food box. We've been living out of a Cheez-It box for the past 20 to 30 years. TV dinners. You know, I had a couple that came into the restaurant the other day. They were 96 years old. They'd been married for 50 plus years. And I asked them, as the cliche goes, but I swear I really did ask them this. I said, what's the secret to living this long? And the lady looked at me and she said, cooking your own food. We've been cooking all of our own food in our own kitchen our entire lives. Albeit they come out to eat at my restaurant once every couple months, hopefully more than once a month, actually. I'm really trying to drill down into my sales strategy there. But nonetheless, the reason that they've been doing that, and they've eaten through so many different food pyramids and dietary food guidelines. But what's hilarious is we've come full circle because the new dietary guidelines, they're a North Star. They're a North Star for chefs. They're a North Star for consumers, and getting us back in the kitchen, reestablishing that relationship with food. And that elderly couple, you know, they've been eating bacon and butter and real fats, tallow, no seed oils. They've been eating that same type of food in their house for the past 50, 60, 70 years, and they're 96 years old. I think that's a testament to cooking our own food. But the more important thing is that it reestablishes a connection with a bounty of ingredients that we have here in America. Most people don't realize this, but we actually have the best food products of any other country in the world. Let's talk seafood, which is laid out in these new dietary food guidelines, which, funny enough, I should say as a footnote, people understand that we need to be eating more seafood. When you ask them what's the proteins that I should be eating or what should I be eating, they say, oh, the Mediterranean diet, I should eat more seafood. And yet we have the lowest per capita consumption of seafood of any developed country in the world, roughly 16 to 17 pounds per person. Right, that creates this Western diet. And furthermore, we have the most sustainable fisheries of any country in the world by virtue of the Magnuson-Stevens Act of, I think it was 1976. Maybe I made that number up. Might have been 77. But nonetheless, legislatively, we have a bounty of amazing seafood, and yet we import 85 to 95% of the seafood in the United States. And that's just one thing, seafood, eating more seafood, getting healthier. But let's talk about meat, right? Our ranchers, our farmers, our produce providers. The entire food supply chain in America is the best of any other country in the world. There we go. Clap on that one because it's true. Now, we might not see the bounty of all of that yet, but it's being done right now. Over the past year, I've had thousands of people, listeners, viewers, customers come to me and say, what should I eat? Where should I be eating? Where does my food come from? This is the first time in my entire career that people are talking about food. If that is just the only takeaway, although we know there's going to be a lot more, that in and of itself is huge because people are asking, where does my food come from and how should I be eating? And with the new dietary guidelines, when you explain it to them, they say, duh, well, that makes sense. And you might be thinking to yourself, why as a chef am I driving people away from restaurants and fast food? Because ultimately I'm going to go bankrupt. Perhaps that is the case. But I'm also a father. I'm a father of 4 kids, and I want my kids to understand about that relationship with food. I don't want my kids thinking that cheeseburgers grow on trees, although that actually would be pretty amazing. So maybe HHS can look into that. I'm also a local Huntington Beach City Councilman, and all of the questions I get from my constituents, it's not about potholes and tree overhangs and neighborhood disputes and budgets and deficits. You know what it's about? It's about food. They all ask me about food because they want a healthier community. But most importantly, I'm an American. And as an American, I care about the future. And I care about the health of this country. And when we're spending more than 20%, way more than 20% of our federal budget on health care, and we only get sicker and sicker and sicker, something needs to be done about it. And it needs to be done in a clear and concise manner, and that's the new dietary guidelines. People understand this. So this is setting a huge precedent on a go-forward basis. And I'm really excited to see what happens with America over the next 10 years, even through new administrations, even though Secretary Kennedy, President Trump, Secretary Rollins are making a huge difference right now today. This is going to ultimately play out in 10 or 15 years. And when we see that federal budget deficit go down on healthcare spending because people are eating right now, you can think back to this moment. You can think back to this year because this is where it started. So thank you so much for being here and supporting this message. I am very excited right now because the one thing I didn't talk about was planting that seed and having it germinate into our institutions, right? So that's schools, that's hospitals, that's prisons, and most importantly, that's also our military. So it's an honor for me to introduce to you right now the Army Undersecretary Mike Obadal.
All right, thank you, Chef. I don't know how I follow that menu or that passion, but I'll do my best here. So Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Rollins, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Army's nutritional transformation. As the land component of our joint force and the final backstop for America in times of crisis, the Army must provide fit and lethal forces. Our mission is to ensure that the American soldier is the most fueled, most fit, and most lethal human weapon system on the planet. To achieve this, we're introducing a campus-style dining model across our training centers. The transition is rooted in data. The research concluded that the old Army dining facility that is so popular, that schedule was misaligned with our modern training cycles, and it led our soldiers to rely on low-nutrient processed options. So we've shifted to a concessions-based restaurant-style model. It's got multiple food stations with extended service hours, and we're providing high-performance fuel to our force. Colleges across America, they take great pride and great strides in the nutrition of their student athletes, and it's long past time to do the same thing for our warrior athletes. We are proud to say that in 1 week at Fort Hood, Texas, we're opening the doors to our first pilot location. Fort Carson in Colorado is going to open this spring, and we're renovating across the Army on numerous locations as we continue this transformation across the whole force. Our work with Chef Robert Irvine and the Victory Fresh Initiative have introduced Power Bowls and readily available whole foods at Army bases across the world. And these aren't just convenience items, they are precision nutrition. We're seeing a marked increase in the consumption of lean proteins and complex carbohydrates at these locations, which correlates directly to better physical performance during training. We're backing these nutritional wins with new gold standard physical metrics. Starting this year, we transitioned to a waist-to-height ratio as our primary body composition standard. By focusing on the science, the health science, rather than arbitrary weight charts, we're promoting a force that can endure the rigors of modern combat. And this commitment to health starts at our roots, with our youth. Through our Department of Education, our military education schools, our DODEA schools, our kids, and then our commissaries, where our families shop, we're making healthy choices the easy choice. We are streamlining the procurement of local, unprocessed foods and increasing access to fresh American seafoods and produce. By focusing on the root causes of our health crisis, we'll achieve an Army that doesn't meet standards, it sets them. We are building a force that is leaner, faster, and ready to meet today's challenges. Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Rollins, thank you both for including the Army in today's event. And I am happy to introduce the Director, Bureau of Prisons, William Marshall.
Good morning. Thank you, Army Undersecretary Obadal. Appreciate that introduction. The federal prison system is the largest correctional system in the United States, responsible for the custody and care of more than 152,000 federal inmates. That mission carries significant responsibility, not only for the safety and security, but also for the health and well-being of those in our custody and the staff who work there every day to keep our institutions safe. I want to thank HHS Secretary Kennedy and Secretary Rollins for convening this conversation. We have begun productive discussions about the food we provide, the standards that guide our work, and the opportunities ahead as HHS rolls out new Make America Healthy Again priorities and updated dietary guidelines for Americans. I appreciate the spirit of collaboration, and I am encouraged by the next steps as our subject matter experts will take with your teams in the coming weeks as they review our food service manuals together. I also want to thank President Donald J. Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi for their leadership in elevating this issue and for their support of the Make America Healthy Again initiative. Thank you. I got more than one clap, so that was good. So that helps bring renewed attention to nutrition, wellness, and evidence-based standards across our federal agencies. We recognize that correctional environments face high levels of aggression, chronic disease, and mental health needs. Nutrition is one of the few environmental factors we can directly control, and research shows that diet quality affects behavior, emotional regulation, and institutional safety. Studies in the United Kingdom and the Netherlands show that even basic vitamin and mineral supplementation can reduce the disciplinary infractions and aggressive behavior. These outcomes were measured using official incident data rather than self-reports, and these effects have been modest, but they are very meaningful. Nutrition is not a cure for criminal behavior. It does not replace mental health care or programming, but it is a tool we already have and one that can support safer, healthier, and more stable institutions. That is why the MAHA framework is so important. It aligns with our mission and our challenges to strengthen dietary qualities, reduce chronic disease, and create healthier food environments for a population that often arrives with significant health disparities. It also challenges us to think creatively, whether that means refining our menu standards, identifying low or no-cost improvements, or exploring opportunities for institutions to grow some of their own produce to support both nutrition and meaningful inmate work programs. With the right investment and continued partnership, the Bureau of Prisons can lead the nation in effective, evidence-based prison food reform. We can further align with MAHA, support inmate health, reduce violence, and foster rehabilitation through nutrition, training, and community collaboration. And we can do this while maintaining fiscal responsibility and operational safety. I'm grateful for the partnership, and I look forward to the work ahead. We can make meaningful, evidence-based improvements that benefit the people in our custody, the staff who protect them, and the communities to which most of them will one day return to. I want to thank you for the time today. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and be part of this amazing program. If you will please stay seated, we'll take a short pause before moving on to our remaining speakers. Thank you very much.
A knockout initiative from the White House.
The newest fighter in the war on processed food, Mike Tyson.
Boxing champion Mike Tyson is teaming up with the Maha movement.
Tyson's taking on a new fight.
Boxing legend Mike Tyson has a new battle.
This is the most important fight of his life.
To make America healthy again.
Last night, millions of Americans saw a 30-second ad that stood out from the rest. Secretary RFK Jr. getting behind the message.
It's an extraordinary, powerful ad.
With the warning, processed food kills.
Processed food kills. You need to eat real food. Real food is the way to go.
Eat real food. Eat real food.
I think it's the most important ad in Super Bowl history.
My sister's name was Denise. She died of obesity at 25. She had a heart attack. I was so fat and nasty. I would eat anything. I was like 345 pounds. A quart of ice cream every hour. I had so much self-hate when I was like that. I just wanted to kill myself. We're the most powerful country in the world, and we have the most obese, fudgy people. Something has to be done about processed food in this country.
Ladies and gentlemen, now introducing your USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins and HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
Well, good morning, everyone. And listen, I didn't have on my 2026 bingo card a picture with the Mike Tyson claw tattoo on my face, but how amazing is this? I mean, really, how awesome to be here today. And I just want to thank Bobby. I'm going to thank you officially in a second, but I know I speak on your behalf as well. All of these incredible patriots who are off to the stage here. We're going to see Mr. Tyson in just a moment, but everyone that went ahead of us, the role that they have played, the leadership that they continue to focus on, the game-changing heart to truly change the future of America is just so incredibly inspiring. So how about one more round of applause for all the speakers that went ahead and as we move towards the end of the program. As a Maha mom of 4 teenagers myself, these issues are certainly near and dear to me, and I notice so many other moms and dads from here in the room, and it's so great to see such a huge crowd, but also all around the country as people are watching. The Trump administration has already racked up so many victories in our fight to make America healthy again. And USDA has been so proud to serve on the front lines right alongside my dear friend, Secretary Bobby Kennedy. We were joking backstage because it's been almost a year ago this Friday where I called Bobby and my anniversary. We were both, not intentionally, but both voted upon and sworn in on the exact same day, which was February 13th. I'm not going to brag, Bobby. I may have had a few more votes than you over in the Senate. I don't know if it'd be that way today, but the very next day, Valentine's Day, one of the key media in this city wrote an article about who's going to get divorced first. And within the cabinet, not from our spouses, but from each other. And there was a wedding cake, and it showed, a bottom rung of the cake, several of the cabinet members or senior staff, and then the next rung. Well, at the very top of the cake was Bobby and me, the two of us together, with a cake knife slicing down the middle and us falling apart. We were picked to be the very first divorce amongst the Trump cabinet and our partnership with each other. And Bobby, I'm so proud to say it just couldn't be further from the truth. What an extraordinary partner he has been. When you look at this last year and what it has looked like, we now have 18 states with more in the hopper who have submitted and been approved their SNAP waivers to no longer allow taxpayer dollars to be used to purchase junk food and sodas and all of the things that make us unhealthy. 18 states, both blue and red. How about that? That is a massive win for making America healthy again. We're also in the final weeks of finalizing our new stocking standards, which of course the stock show girl immediately thinks about cattle, but the stocking standards actually means the 250,000 retailers in this country who accept SNAP EBT dollars, they have to now more than double the healthy food offerings that they have on the shelves. This too is a major win for making America healthy again. These actions, alongside removing the waste and the fraud and the abuse from the SNAP program, continue to be key priorities at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. But as we continue to move to put farming and ranching back at the top of what we're doing at USDA, what this effort means for our farmers and our ranchers cannot be overstated. All these actions are so very important as we work to transform the way the federal government approaches nutrition. For decades, federal incentives have promoted low-quality, highly processed foods, pharmaceutical intervention instead of prevention and healthy eating. As a result, we are consuming fewer essential vitamins, minerals, fibers, and phytonutrients needed for optimal biological functioning. Thankfully, the solution is so simple. It is eat real food. This is the main message of our new Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2025 to 2030, which we released last month, to roaring applause on both sides of the aisle. The new guidelines encourage households and schools and homes and the military, all of the above, to prioritize whole, nutrient-dense foods. Research consistently shows that key micronutrients such as calcium and iron and potassium and vitamin D, which are found in fruits and vegetables, are essential for children's physiological well-being. Evidence consistently links diets centered on whole foods to lower rates of chronic disease. And that's why we are finally putting real food back at the center of the American diet. Real food that nourishes the body. Real food that restores health. Real food that fuels energy and builds strength. This is the roadmap to national change. And thanks to the healthy, affordable, and abundant food supply already available from America's incredible farmers and ranchers, recovery is on the horizon. By producing milk, raising cattle and chicken and pigs, and our great farmers of the sea, our seafood, growing wholesome fruits and vegetables and grains, our farmers and ranchers hold the key to solving our national health crisis. And President Trump is mobilizing his entire government to ensure families across America have greater access to these healthy foods. Important point here that in the last 12 months, inflation has slowed, wages have risen for the first time in 5 years, and under our president's leadership, prices for everyday staples are declining and more help is on the way. Compared to this time last year, cost of cheese and fruit, fresh fruit, is down by 2%, butter is down 3.5%, and eggs are down 31%. Our American households enjoy the most affordable and abundant food in the world, and the release of these new guidelines reinforces that reality. A healthy meal is within reach of every American family. And Chef Gruel, I want to thank you for your leadership on that. It is just incredible to see it in work. And one more thing before I turn it over to the real man of the hour. Maybe I'll say one of the real men of the hour. We have another one waiting to come on. I'm happy to announce that today, right here, we are at USDA releasing new guidance for all regional and state directors of our child nutrition programs, encouraging them today to familiarize themselves with the key recommendations and consider how these guidelines and how they will be incorporated into program meals and snacks as we continue to promote and build healthy outcomes and healthy families. This release today kicks off an effort to update USDA's child nutrition programs based on our DGAs and this guidance, including through rulemaking and education. We are working to have a proposed school meals rule by mid-spring, in just about a month, so that children across America can reap the benefits of the MAHA wins that we're here to celebrate today. Under President Trump's leadership, we are restoring common sense, we are restoring scientific integrity, and we are restoring accountability to the federal food and health policy. One final note, I've said it a lot, I'll say it again. Every day, the U.S. Department of Agriculture spends almost $400 million on our 16 nutrition programs. That, my friends, is a market mover in a way that we can really begin to make America healthy again. We're going to make American agriculture great again, and we're going to do that because of the gentleman standing right next to me. Please stand up and give him the applause and the thank you he deserves. Our Secretary of Health and Human Services, my incredible partner, Bobby Kennedy.
Thank you, Brooke. It's been one of the great pleasures of having this job is being able to work with Brooke. There's not a day that goes by that we don't talk on the phone, and we've developed not only into a great professional partnership, but a very, very close and warm friendship. And I also, I've worked with agricultural secretaries for the past 40 years, and I can tell you this is the best USDA secretary that we've had in American history. And last month, Brooke and I released the new dietary guidelines. You can see the food pyramid here. For the first time in our nation's history, the federal government put real food at the center of the American diet and protein in the center of the American plate. For decades, Washington lied to Americans. They told us that real food was no better than ultra-processed food. That claim defied science, it ignored common sense, and it betrayed American families. It justified hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies for ultra-processed products, fueled by nationwide health collapse that drove trillions of dollars in healthcare costs that now threaten our economy and our future and make our children the sickest generation in our nation's history and the sickest children in the world. The highest chronic disease burden of any children in the world. Today, more than 40% of American children suffer from at least one chronic condition. Nearly 1 in 5 teenagers suffers from fatty liver disease. We've watched captive agencies and corrupt officials and industry officials gaslight Americans into looking at chronic disease as just a normal feature of childhood. Previous dietary guidelines downplayed the dangers of added sugar, so much so that federal school lunch standards allowed unlimited sugar in meals served to young children. That was a failure of leadership. Parents saw the damage in their own homes, physicians saw it in the exam rooms, and we all saw it in the National Bill for Health Care. We now see the consequences everywhere: rising rates of obesity, diabetes, metabolic disease in our children. 6 in 10 American adults now live with at least one chronic disease. 4 in 10 live with 2 or more. This is not a small crisis. This is the defining health crisis of our time. Every parent in this country knows that something is wrong with the American diet. Now, for the first time in a generation, you have leaders in Washington who are willing to confront the truth and to change course. And that change started because of President Donald Trump, because he had the courage to take on the big food industry and challenge the status quo and put the health of American families and American children first. He refused to accept a system that made our kids sick and called it normal. He told us to fix it, and we are now fixing it. That is leadership. These dietary guidelines rest on gold standard science, real-world evidence, and they have earned broad support across medicine and public health and American culture. And I'm so proud today to work with organizations like the American Medical Association. I want to thank Abi Mukkamala for his courage and his vision and his commitment to public health and to reversing the chronic disease epidemic and refocusing the American diet on real food. Today, we are putting the full weight of the federal government behind one goal: making healthy, affordable food accessible to every American. Secretary Brooke Rollins is leading an historic transformation at USDA, and together we're redirecting government procurement dollars toward American farmers and not junk food manufacturers. When large corporations that make ultra-processed food control the food system in our country, it's bad for farmers because it takes power away from them, from farmers, from ranchers, and from local producers, and it concentrates it in the hands of people who are not looking out for American health. You can see that commitment in our speakers today. We're reforming the system across our military, our schools, our hospitals, and our prisons. Brooke has a $405 million a day that she's spending on subsidizing food in this country for the WICS program, for school lunches, for food stamps, for the Indian Health Program, for the SNAP program. And then we have military and prisons and VA all paying for millions of foods a day. These guidelines are going to drive cultural changes in the American diet. First, starting with those subsidized food programs and making food more available and affordable to every American. And yesterday, I met with many of the prison leaders in this country. We're talking about changing the food in the prisons for public safety reasons. Because we know in their study after study, and you can go on Google and look them up, and show when they change the food to real food in prisons, and the violence goes down by 40 or 50%. Disciplinary problems drop by 40 or 50%. Use of restraints in juvenile detention facilities go down by 70%. Oh, this is a mental health issue as well as a behavioral issue, as well as a physical health issue. And yesterday, we also met with Chef Robert Irvine, who's a television chef who has been brought in by the Army and by the military, by our wonderful DOW Secretary Pete Hegseth, to change the military food program. And you heard a little bit about that from Michael Obadal, the Undersecretary of the Army. But the talk we had with Irvine was extraordinary because he's able to bring, first of all, he did Fort Bragg and Fort Hood and Fort Jackson, two of the biggest bases in our country. They're now doing 20 more bases. And the food was so bad on these bases, the troops weren't eating it. 50% of it was being thrown out. And now there's lines around the block where people are fighting to get in. The troops were going and buying their meals from fast food joints and spending their hard-earned, meager military paycheck on fast food. And now they're fighting to get in to eat real food, and it's all fresh. There's no freezing. He told me that a fresh salmon costs $6 a fillet. A frozen salmon costs $9. Why are we buying this frozen salmon? The military, the cost of the military right now of feeding soldiers $18 a day. He's doing it for $10 a day and feeding them real food. What Robert Irvine says, we don't need more money. We just need to be smarter. And that's what this administration is about. Americans receive Americans are going to start receiving food that support public health rather than driving long-term illness. Over the past year, USDA has approved historic SNAP waivers, as Brooke mentioned, from almost 20 states to remove soda and junk food, and in some cases, ultra-processed food from taxpayer-funded benefits. More than 20 states have stepped forward. We're calling on every state to take this common-sense action. The food industry is responding. Companies are stripping petroleum-based dyes out of their foods. Tyson's food, and there's no relation. Today is Tyson Day at HHS. Tyson's Foods stepped up early. CEO Donnie King, who's here today, because Tyson was the first large company to answer the call, removing petroleum-based dyes and committing to eliminate high-fructose corn syrup from its branded foods. The FDA is establishing for the first time a clear definition of ultra-processed foods to guide labeling and federal purchasing decisions. And for the first time in decades, the FDA will require notification and a safety review when companies introduce new chemicals into our food supply. Until now, the federal government lacked a real mechanism to track or evaluate many of the substances entering our food. We have 10,000 ingredients in our food in this country, and all but 400 are illegal in Europe. We are also partnering with innovators, designers, and advocates to deliver a clear, positive message. Healthy eating is achievable, practical, affordable, and within reach of every American family. In the months ahead, we will roll out a steady series of actions to reform procurement, to realign incentives, and to expand access to healthy, affordable whole foods nationwide. Let me be clear. Confronting ultra-processed food is not an attack on industry. It's an acknowledgement of a reality. The crisis is not the fault of individual Americans. Americans followed the guidance that they were given. Government policy pushed sugar, refined carbohydrates, and ultra-processed food, and the American people paid the price. HHS manages the largest budget in human history, and nearly 90% of it goes to treating largely preventable diet-induced chronic diseases. And the price is staggering. We spend more than $4 trillion a year on health care. 3/4 of that goes to chronic disease that are diet-induced. Getting that right is not optional. Our nation's future depends on it. Today, I extend my hand in good faith to anyone willing to put the health of our children above politics, improving school lunches, reforming SNAP, removing toxic additives. These were bipartisan priorities before, and we will make them bipartisan again. This movement will not slow down. We are restoring common sense. We are putting real food back at the center of the American diet, and together we're going to make America healthy again. And now I'm going to introduce the man you've all been waiting for, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, and 44 knockouts. And the thing I really love about Mike Tyson, though, is that he's a pigeon fancier. And I grew up breeding and racing Hungarian homing pigeons. I started out when I was 7 years old. About 10 years ago, I went on Mike's podcast. And we were planning to talk about a wide range of things, but we spent almost the entire time talking about pigeons. So he was a pigeon racer, too. And in fact, he told me in that podcast, at the time, the first time that he realized that he had talent was when an older boy, a bully in the neighborhood, came by and killed one of his birds. And that was his first KO. But when he talked, this is the most fierce fighter in the ring in history. When he talks about pigeons, you can see his heart, his compassion, his gentleness. And you see in this ad, this extraordinary ad. And Peter Arnell and Brett Ratner told me that when they went to shoot this ad, they had 8 hours. They spent the first 7 trying to get Mike to read a script. And they weren't capturing the power that they knew was in him. So the last hour, they just let him talk. And out of that, we got this extraordinary, powerful ad. I think it's the most important and consequential ad in the history of the Super Bowl. And I think it's really going to change our country. So, Mike, why don't you come up and...
Wow, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the President, Secretary Kennedy, Peter Arnell, Brett Ratner, and everybody that helped me and had anything to do with allowing me to be in part of the commercial for the Super Bowl. And once they were telling me the situation, what it was about obesity, I was telling them my experience that I had a sister that died at 25 from obesity. And where I come from is Brownsville, Brooklyn. It's the most violent, poverty-stricken neighborhood in the city of New York. And ultra processed food was just the norm. Everything was processed food. We didn't have much money, but we had food stamps, and food stamps can buy you the candy, the sugar, and all that soda, 7-Up, and all that rotten stuff. And that's just all we knew. And the food that we ate was pretty much processed. It was gizzards, guts, and stools and stuff of weird animals. And I just wanted to be a part of this because that was such a part of my life. I grew up upstate New York with a master fight trainer, and so he gave me a lifestyle. So obesity is totally out of my life. And sometimes I fool around, I gain 40, 20 pounds. I'm real lazy, but I have a lifestyle, losing like this. And that's why I'm just such a fan of this. This is the biggest fight of my life. I want to be a hero in this particular field because it affects my life. Every time I see someone who may be obese, I have an affinity for them. I want to be close to them. I want to talk to them. I want to let them know that I'm their friend without saying, hey, you remind me of my sister. And I'm just very grateful to be here and fight this fight. It's going to be a fight that I look forward to. Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me.
I want to thank you all for coming. Let's give a big hand for Mike Tyson. Let's everybody rise. And thank you all very much. And the message that I'm going to leave you with, we were able to reduce hundreds of pages of dietary guidelines, Brooke and my teams, to about 6 pages, but it's just 3 words: eat real food. I ask you all to start doing that today if you're not already doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to do a picture. Okay.